Hello, mind wanderers. Welcome back to a new exploration into the depths of the psyche. This video is inspired by Søren Kierkegaard's ideas, paraphrased for clarity. Anxiety, the birthplace of freedom. There is a feeling we all know intimately. It creeps in during the quiet moments, when distractions fall away. It knocks when we pause long enough to hear ourselves think. It can feel like fear, but it isn't quite fear. Like dread, but without a clear reason. It just is. We call it anxiety. But what if this uneasy, restless sensation isn't a sign that something's wrong with us, but that something vital is awakening? Let's begin. Anxiety is not really an illness. It is a condition of being human. It does not come from external danger, but from internal possibility. It arises when we become dimly aware that we are free. Free not only to choose between options, but to shape who we are. And that, strangely, is terrifying. To be truly free is to stand alone before an open horizon. It is to face the truth that no one and nothing can ultimately decide for us. No tradition, no rule book, no parent, no inherited pattern. We must choose. And in that freedom lies the possibility of failing, of becoming someone we did not intend to be. The self is not given, it is a task, and every task carries risk. We are not merely beings who act, we are beings who must interpret ourselves again and again in light of the freedom we've been given. And with this freedom comes dizziness. Not the dizziness of the body, but of the soul. A vertigo of possibility. This is why anxiety feels like a tension, not between us and the world, but within ourselves. A tug of war between who we are and who we might become. Between the safety of the known and the call of the unknown. The child senses it when they realize they are not simply what their parents say. The teenager feels it when they look in the mirror and wonder who is really looking back. The adult feels it when at last the noise settles and they sense life is asking something more. This is not a cue to run. It is an invitation to listen. In that silence, something ancient speaks. A summons, not from the world, but from within. From the self that wants to emerge, if only we are willing to endure the birth pains of becoming. But the modern world offers countless ways to silence that inner urge. We wander aimlessly. We seek diversion. We busy ourselves with what is fleeting. We fill the silence with noise. We reduce ourselves to roles and metrics. We rush to certainty even when it is hollow. Anything to drown out the quiet voice that asks, "You are free. What will you do with it?" That voice is anxiety. Not as a flaw, but as a mirror. It reflects our unfinished nature and reminds us that we are responsible for our own becoming. No wonder the ground feels unstable. The frameworks we inherited might no longer fit. The life we're living might not be ours. Anxiety is like standing at the edge of a great precipice, the abyss stretching wide before you, vast and unknown. It is the stillness before a journey begins, when the road ahead is hidden and the map must be drawn as we go. It is the breath we hold before the first note of a song that has not yet found its melody. Some retreat into what is known. Some build walls around their restlessness. But some, though trembling, step into the wide unknown, trusting that each step will teach them how to walk. There are two responses to anxiety. The first is submission. The second is growth. Submission is easy. It means letting others decide. Surrendering our freedom to structures, ideologies, habits, substances, distractions. But it can also mean yielding to our own inner fears, the fear of failure, of being alone, of shouldering the weight of our own choices. Submission reveals itself when we choose what is more comfortable, not what is true. when we prefer the security of imitation over the terror of authenticity, when we allow our lives to be lived for us rather than by us. But the quiet ache doesn't vanish. It sinks deeper, and it turns into despair, a sense that we've missed something essential, a sense that somewhere we stopped listening, that we stopped choosing, that we abandoned ourselves. Growth is more difficult. It means choosing without certainty, embracing ambiguity, moving forward without full clarity. It means saying yes to the risk of becoming, yes to standing apart, yes to failing and trying again, not to be perfect, but to be real. Along that path, anxiety becomes something else, not a curse, but a compass, a signal that we are alive, that we are free, that something in us still longs to become real. Growth calls us to accept the loneliness that freedom demands, not as a punishment, but as a prerequisite for authenticity. It asks us to bear the weight of our choices without flinching, to confront the abyss within ourselves and find a source of strength there. It is the path of the self who knows that becoming involves suffering, hope, and the courage to remain incomplete. This means seeking completion in staying open, not uncertainty. And in that openness, new life begins. So how do we live with anxiety without letting it consume us? We begin by naming it, not as a malfunction, but as a messenger. A strange, unsettling companion that arrives when life is inviting us to wake up, to break from habit, to ask, what do I really want? Who do I truly wish to become? This requires honesty, not just outwardly, but inwardly. It means seeing when we conform to avoid rejection, when we silence truth to stay safe, when we confuse comfort with meaning. It means recognizing that the self is not found, but forged, slowly, day by day, choice by choice. The work is subtle, often invisible, and yet nothing matters more. To become yourself is to stand in the presence of anxiety and say, I am willing. I am willing to bear this trembling. I am willing to not know. I am willing to risk being wrong. Because the alternative is to never try, to remain a ghost in your own life. Anxiety, then, is not the enemy of freedom. It is its shadow. The two are inseparable. To feel anxious is to be standing at the threshold of possibility. It means that you haven't gone numb, that you are still listening, that something in you longs for more. More depth, more authenticity, more life. And this is where courage begins. Not in eliminating anxiety, but in carrying it, in allowing it to stretch us, in letting it become fuel for growth. To live without anxiety is not the goal. The goal is to live through it, with it, as a companion that reminds us that we are still alive, still changing, still becoming. Some will tell you that freedom means doing as you please, escaping responsibility, escaping pain, escaping constraint. But that isn't freedom. It is another kind of prison. True freedom is the power to choose, even when you are afraid. Especially then, it is the quiet strength to say, this is who I am. This is who I choose to become. And I alone must take the step. Real freedom does not erase fear. It teaches us to act despite it. It invites us to hold our trembling and our longing in the same hand and keep walking. So when anxiety arrives, as it surely will, do not shut the door. Let it speak. Ask it what it wants to reveal. It might remind you of the dreams you abandoned, the values you compromised, the person you stopped becoming. It might shake your foundations, but that shaking is necessary. It means the old walls are crumbling to make room for something new. And then, with trembling hands, take the next step. Not because you are certain, but because you are free. This is the work of becoming yourself. It begins with the courage to feel the trembling, to feel the doubt, to feel the vast openness that freedom demands. And in that feeling, you find your way, because the self is not a destination, but a pilgrimage, a movement toward greater honesty, greater love, greater depth. And if you can walk with your anxiety, not as a burden, but as a companion, then you are already free. And remember, freedom begins within.